Welcome inside our Mountaineer Game Day studios. Angelica Trinone and Nick Farrell here with you for our brand new show, Mountaineer Game Day Extra. We debuted this show last week, so this is episode 2 for us. Just a refresher in case anybody didn't join us for the first episode, we are bringing you this midweek show. It'll be our first reaction to head coach Neil Brown's press conference and, of course, what the players had said, and then we'll get you that early look ahead to WVU's upcoming game, and then that way you don't have to wait to all of our programs on Saturday to get an in-depth look at WVU's upcoming matchup. So for this week, week 2, it will be WVU versus Missouri. But before we get into any of that, we're going to circle back to the week 1 matchup. We're going to talk about the narrow win over JMU. But first, got to give credit to the crowd. What a game day atmosphere that it was at Milan Puskar Stadium for WVU's opening game. We heard from the coaches and players alike. They were really impressed with the amount of support that they got, even from the student section as well. And I think personally, for me, a really great game day atmosphere to start off the Neil Brown era. Yeah, 62,000 strong, just under 62,000 fans. It was loud and proud WVU fandom from start to finish, minus a few times. Coach Brown admitted after the game, he said it got a little ugly at times, and it did, but West Virginia hung on, and it's maybe thanks in part to the fans who stuck with the team throughout. Angelica, it was not only a great atmosphere with the sellout crowd, but to see all of the energy, new banners throughout the stadium, right? Everything looked fresh and new for this new era of WVU football, not to mention the new uniforms in the traditional blue shirt, gold pants look for the Mountaineers. So really great to see WVU come away with a victory, but when we look at some of the nitty-gritty, maybe it wasn't the best football game, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of new faces that we got to see out there for the first time, including quarterback Austin Kendall. And he had a really great quip after the game. Kendall's been around some Power 5 football for a long time, played at Oklahoma, but he said the Mountaineer man trip was one of the coolest things that he's ever experienced as a college athlete. So good for you, Morgantown, to welcome your new starting quarterback in. Yeah, you and I were talking about this after the game, that this year, for WVU's head coach Neil Brown and the assistants as well, that all of their families, their wives and kids were walking with them for the man trip as well, which is something that I'm not entirely sure if that has ever been done before. I don't ever remember it here in my previous 3 seasons, just having those family members walk with you. So just really plays into what Coach Brown has been talking about since he arrived here, the culture change and the family atmosphere. We certainly got to see all of those changes firsthand at that game versus JMU. So let's get into a little bit more about that matchup. It was 20-13, the final score in favor of West Virginia. Like Coach Brown said, it was ugly, but West Virginia got the win. A much better second half for WVU, but if you looked at the first half, Nick, looking at the stats, well, it was a little dicey on if the Mountaineers were going to be able to walk away with that win there. The run game, not there, but I think for me, West Virginia's defense really performed much, much better in the second half, and I think that was key for the win. Yeah, the offense also settled in, too. There was one point in the first half where James Madison had outgained West Virginia by about 95 yards. So that's not a great way to usher in a new era of football for Neil Brown or new quarterback Austin Kendall. But Kendall did get his footing eventually. Opened the third quarter with a great scoring drive, ended with a touchdown pass to George Campbell, the grad transfer wide receiver, his first touchdown at the Division I level, even though he played at Florida State before he came to WVU. But then the Keith Washington interception that set up that Tevin Bush touchdown in the fourth quarter, that might have been the biggest play of the game. If not that one, it's probably Darius Stills coming up with that big field goal block early in the first half when WVU was already down. So some big-time plays for the Mountaineers, but the thing that I think the coaching staff is scrutinizing the most is what you touched on a moment ago, and that's the running game. 34 rushing yards total for West Virginia. Not going to cut it in the future. Almost didn't cut it in week 1, so it's got to get a lot better going forward, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we roll along here on MGD Extra. Yeah, and just since spring and fall camp, everybody was talking about that the run game was going to be the key to success for WVU, especially when you look at the inexperience that the Mountaineers have at wide receiver, which, when you look at the inexperience of this team in general, I think a lot of that did show up against game 1, but then the veterans are right there at that running back position and a couple of those guys on the offensive line as well. So I think that people coaching staff included, the fans, us, I think we were expecting a lot more out of that run game, and I think WVU was expecting it too. There were so many times that Kennedy McCoy was just in there trying to make something happen, and he was just running into a brick wall, it seemed, every single time. I think he had 11 carries for only 11 yards. Talking to some of the assistants afterwards, of course, Coach Brown said it was a poor performance there in the run game. Not putting it all on the offensive line, not putting it all on the running backs. Coach Brown said everybody offensively did play their part in that run game, not being up to the standard. But Coach Moore, West Virginia's co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, had said he thinks that the offensive line was playing too careful. They were too worried about missing their assignments and making sure they were in the right place at the right time, that they really weren't getting there at the pad level and maybe weren't playing. He said they weren't straining as much as JMU's defense. So I'm looking forward to see if now that they do have that inexperience there with Mike Brown, John Hughes going in, a lot of that shuffling, to see if now that that game is under their belt, they've went back, they've watched the tape, what it's now going to look like up here in week 2, because like you had said, it almost wasn't enough in week 1, but that certainly can't happen for the rest of the season if West Virginia wants to rack up some wins.
So you've got one extreme where WVU only rushes for 34 yards, even though the running backs have a ton of talent.
Yeah.
Then you've got the other extreme for Missouri, West Virginia's week 2 opponent. Let's take a look at the Tigers really quickly. Gave up 297 yards on the ground in week 1 against Wyoming. Yes, on the road, but still giving up nearly 300 yards rushing. And in a game that the Tigers were favored in a game that the Tigers led predominantly in the first half, but then gave up a ton of points in the second quarter and had to play from behind the rest of the game. Couldn't stop the run, couldn't get the ball back, couldn't come away with a victory. So now you've got West Virginia 1-0, barely able to hang on against James Madison, but getting the job done, going up against an SEC team that's entering week 2 0-1. So Neil Brown says the Mountaineers better be hungry and they better learn a few lessons as they get ready to go on to take on their first road test of the season.
Yeah, I don't think you prepare them any different. You know, the way I look at it, we should be really a hungry football team coming to this game. We didn't play necessarily very well in the game on Saturday. Found a way to win. We got a long way to go. We got an extremely tough schedule ahead of us, and so in Missouri, they're not pleased with how they played. They lost on the road. They're opening it up. To me, after about the first 2 or 3 plays, none of that matters. Okay, so how we practice, how we handle ourselves today and tomorrow will be a big determinant, but we've got to be hungry. I expect them to be hungry, but we better be every bit as hungry or maybe more so.
You can hear much more on WVU's Week 2 matchup versus Missouri coming up this weekend on a brand new episode of The Neil Brown Show. It will air at 5 p.m. on Friday night on AT&T Sportsnet, and then on Saturday at 9 a.m. on your local Nexstar station, so make sure to check your local listing. So plenty more on that matchup coming your way throughout MGD Extra, and Nick actually had a chance to get a little more insight on the Tigers from somebody who's been with the team.
Yeah, absolutely, Angelica. So now we're going to welcome in Chris Gervino, our guest this week on MGD Extra. Chris is the sports director at KOMU in Columbia, Missouri, also an analyst for the Tigers Radio Network. So, Chris, let's start. Before we talk about the Tiger defense, want to know your thoughts on Kelly Bryant, the Clemson transfer who made his debut for the Tigers in Week 1. What's your analysis of his performance?
You know, he put up some great numbers for Missouri. The Tigers had about 500 yards of offense, and he threw the ball, really pretty well. But I think the thing that a lot of folks will remember, unfortunately, are his turnovers. He had really a costly fumble that was returned for a score, and then as the Tigers were going in for another apparent score, really threw an ill-advised pass running left and fired back across the field to the right and was intercepted. So, those are some unfortunate mistakes that I know a lot of fans are disappointed in, especially with all his previous experience. And at the same time, I think he still gave a really good account of himself for most of the game. He showed good leadership. He at one point ran down a player after another turnover and rushed across the field, saved a touchdown for Missouri, and ended up keeping Wyoming to a field goal, which of course was big toward the end of the game when Missouri almost had a chance to win it in the end. So really kind of a mixed bag, I guess, if you will. I thought he looked so good at times, put up big passing numbers and offensive yardage numbers, and even 31 points for Missouri, but unfortunately his mistakes were rather costly.
So, Chris, we were just talking about this on our set. The Week 1 stat that really stands out, aside from Bryant's stat line, is that the Tigers gave up nearly 300 yards rushing to Wyoming. Big reason for the loss. Are the Tigers that bad at stopping the run, or was Wyoming that good at moving the football?
Well, we shall see. It was just one game, Nick, obviously, but I think might be a little bit of each. But, you know, my biggest concern about Missouri's team coming into the season was the defensive line, honestly. They've got really 3 new starters up front. So, you know, some guys have played there in the past as reserves, but not a whole lot of proven production from that group. And, of course, you know, defense obviously starts right up front there in the trenches. And Wyoming really punished Missouri on the ground, hardly threw the ball, hardly had to throw the ball as it went on. So, obviously, the Tigers are as well aware as we are of that issue through game 1. They'll work on that quite a bit. But, again, that was my biggest concern in terms of the positional area on the football team coming into the season.
So we're chatting with Chris Gervino, an analyst for the Tiger Radio Network in Columbia, Missouri. Final question for you on MGD Xtra. Head coach Neil Brown thinks that he's going to see a much different Mizzou team than the one that took the field in Wyoming in Week 1. Do you agree?
You know, I know they're extremely disappointed. I mean, this team has very high hopes. This team was an 18-point favorite on the road at Wyoming. And gosh, still, last time I checked, is a 14-point favorite over West Virginia, which is really a good program usually, as you well know, and of course in a bit of a transition phase, obviously, so we get that. But, you know, I think they're going to talk about limiting mistakes. That certainly was the message right after the game. I'm the first one to talk to the head coach on our radio network, and he was just so disappointed with the turnovers. Says you just can't have 3 turnovers like that and expect to win. And every time Missouri turned it over, Wyoming cashed in with points. So, you know, in one case, literally on the turnover play, they scored, and then, of course, a couple others put them in business. So I think, you know, that's a lot of the concern and the talk, and just, too, that, you know, you're not going to obviously walk out on the field, certainly on the road, and in this week's case against a Big 12 team, another Power 5 team, and win a ball game unless you really play well and clean things up. So I would expect Missouri at home to come out and be a lot sharper this time. They have to be, or else they're going to be 0-2, and that would really be detrimental, obviously.
All right, Chris, thanks. He's Chris Gervino, sports director at KOMU in Missouri and a member of the Tiger Radio Network. You can, of course, hear much more about this upcoming matchup in Week 2 on Mountaineer Gameday. That's coming your way Saturday morning. 2 hours of live coverage from Columbia coming up beginning at 10 a.m. on your local Nexstar station, and an hour or 2 rolling on over at 11 on AT&T Sports Network. We'll bring you the final word from head coach Neil Brown, a closer look at the Missouri Tigers. We'll give you our keys to the game and much more. That, again, on Mountaineer Gameday starting at 10 this Saturday. Sam's here. He's got your questions for this week.
Hey guys, long time no see.
Yeah, good to see you, man. So,
to see you.
Again, you know, people can ask us questions. Hashtag AskMGDXtra. Sam will bring them to us on the show every week. We want to get fans involved with our show, so why don't you leave us a Facebook comment or send us a tweet and let us know what's on your mind. Sam's got the questions for this week.
Well, we're going to get right into it. The first one comes in from Zenia Molina on Facebook, and she wants to know, will the defense be able to stop the run this week? And before you guys answer, I got a little note. You know, on paper, kind of looks like WVU struggled on Saturday, but you know, in the first half they had 137 yards given up. Second half they came out of the locker room, only gave up 35. So moving into Saturday, what do you think is going to happen, Nick?
It's a good note. He was copying my notes that I have right here. It's just he cheated up. No, I'm completely
Great
kidding.
minds
Good-
think alike.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah, good
Great
work,
minds think
Sam.
alike.
So my biggest thought about West Virginia going into this one is that Kelly Bryant, again, we were just talking about him, the Clemson transfer, now a Missouri Tiger. He's a really talented quarterback, can get it done with his arms, can get it done with his legs. The Tigers racked up more than 500 yards of total offense, and a big reason for that was Bryant. West Virginia seemed to really struggle with Ben DiNucci and his elusiveness at points in the game. You'd think West Virginia had DiNucci locked up, and then all of a sudden he'd break off a 15, 20-yard run. The same thing can happen with Bryant, but I think the thing that was the most positive was that West Virginia really found a way to clamp everything down in the second half, including DiNucci's ability to scramble away. They got him to make some bad throws, including that interception to Keith Washington. So what we need to see from WVU to stop the run is more play like in the second half.
Yeah, I would agree. That's something that West Virginia's defensive coordinator, Vic Koenig, said that West Virginia's defensive line, the defense as a whole, but more specifically the defensive line, had a much better second half than they did up in the first half. Vic Koenig also said they were not prepared for Ben DiNucci to be able to be that mobile, to be able to run that much. You have to think certainly going into this matchup, they are prepared for Kelly Bryant to be able to do that. So they went in, they made those second half adjustments. And if you look at some of the guys defensively that had big games, it was West Virginia's defensive linemen, and they came on sacks or tackles for loss. Dante and Darius Stills, the brothers out of Fairmont, got to Ben DiNucci a couple times, and then also the newcomers, Taj Alston and Reuben Jones for WVU as well. And I think you could see that the energy and the effort were also there more in the second half. And again, going back to what we talked about, I don't know if you can solely put all of that on the inexperience of this team, but I think they finally did get settled in. They finally got comfortable. I think that WVU's defensive line will be even better than they were in week 1. This time, I think they really are going to be prepared for it. A lot of success in red zone defense as well. So I think they should be able to do a decent job up against the run this weekend.
Can I chime in one more thought, Sam? I think that West Virginia, maybe more so than stopping the run, a big priority for the Mountaineers has to be getting more takeaways. You just heard Chris Trevino talking about it, that Kelly Bryant, for as well as he played, his turnovers were the reason why the Tigers lost and couldn't come back. So West Virginia forced 3 takeaways in the opener, one of them on special teams, and had that blocked field goal. If the Mountaineers can take it away from Bryant, well, that's going to go a long way toward a victory.
Special teams and turnovers. Coach Brown said that's what he was happy with in week 1, and that's what he thinks will be successful.
They were all able to get those takeaways in critical points of the game, so it was really important. Now we'll move on. Next one coming at you, Angelica, from Michael Bragg on Twitter. No pressure at all. Will the playbook be opened up this weekend?
Well, we heard from Coach Brown at his weekly press conference on Tuesday that he had thought that this team played a little vanilla in week 1. He said that a little bit because of the inexperience. He wasn't sure what some guys were going to be able to handle. And then, of course, you bring in, like he had said, some guys are better practice players. Some guys are better whenever the lights come on. He saw that on both sides of the ball. Maybe some guys he thought were going to do better in a game situation that didn't. But he said they have to be a little bit more aggressive on both sides of the ball. And the main thing that he said physicality lacked all around. That's the one thing that he really wants to see from this team. So I think now that you have a better idea of how Austin Kendall is going to handle things as West Virginia starter, all these inexperienced players, at least now you have the tape, you have an idea of what these guys can do. I think that can open things up a little bit for WVU. But again, I think where it can open up is, can WVU open up the run game more and actually be successful? So I think a lot of it is going to be what WVU sees from Missouri. I would expect it to open up, but I don't exactly know how much.
That's a good point, Angelica. I think that you will start to see it develop more and more throughout the season, especially once we get into Big 12 play. I think that Coach Brown was reserved for the reasons you mentioned, but also just didn't want to throw everything out there against an FCS opponent, right? West Virginia, according to Brown, he's kind of hinted at this throughout the year, that they've installed some things early on, even back in the spring, that they're going to use later against Big 12 opponents. When they play Baylor, they've got some things that they're going to do on offense and defense. Texas Tech, Oklahoma, whomever it is. So if they've got stuff up their sleeves for Missouri, this is the week that we're going to see it. The question really still is, how much is that going to be? I think we'll see a little bit more than last week, but I don't think it's going to be a wide open playbook just yet.
Yeah, just to add to that, Vic Koenig, West Virginia's defensive coordinator, also said there were some things that he learned about what guys can't do well that he thought that they could. So I think, I know we talked offensively, but I think defensively as well. He said now that we know these guys' strengths, some guys he thought would be better in certain areas and they weren't. So obviously all about playing the WVU strengths. Now that they know that, I would look for, like Nick said, it to open up a little bit.
Now, this question comes in from Adam Bloom on Twitter, kind of in the same vein. Will WVU be able to run the ball, Nick, at all this weekend?
Okay, so I think the answer is yes. They'll run the ball better than against James Madison. Will they run it as well as Wyoming did? Probably not. And I think that Neil Brown mentioned this in his press conference, that the reason Wyoming had so much success running the ball against the Tigers is the personnel that the Cowboys had, right? They've got their quarterback, Sean Chambers, 6'3", 218 pounds. He's a big guy, but he's also mobile. He had 120 yards rushing. Their quarterback was their best rusher. Austin Kendall is not going to produce that type of numbers against Missouri or against anybody. That's just not his style. We also heard from Coach Brown that Wyoming leaned on its tight ends a lot, going with 2 tight end sets, sometimes even putting 3 in the game, right? You're not going to see that from West Virginia again because WVU simply doesn't have that personnel. But Kennedy McCoy is too talented a running back to only have 11 yards on 11 carries. Same with Martell Pettaway. Letty Brown is questionable this week, so we don't know if we'll see him, but Alex Sinkfield, of course, is a guy that has also shown flashes of talent in his short time as a Mountaineer. I just don't see any way that these guys put up close to a goose egg again. You're going to see more production from WVU's running backs this week.
Yeah, something you had said, a takeaway from Coach Brown. He had said Austin Kendall is not the type of runner that Kelly Bryant is or Wyoming's quarterback. He said we also don't use tight ends in the same way, so he doesn't think they will have success in the same area running the ball as Wyoming did up against Missouri, but he does think that they will have success in your own way. You talk about Kennedy McCoy being too good of a player. You could see the frustration on his face, on Martell Pettaway's face, Alex Sinkfield as well. These are guys who this team is relying on. They are veteran players. We had heard that they are the most athletic group. Coach Brown wants them on the field any way, shape, or form that he can get them out there. And you even notice in the pass game, a lot of those early passes went to Kennedy McCoy. So they are relying on these guys. And I just think after the way that it went in week 1, you are Kennedy and you are Martell. You are coming into this game with a chip on your shoulder, and you are going to find a way, whether it's better communication with the offensive line, whether it's talking to them at practice. I think that these are the type of players that week 1 performance, for lack of a better term, was a little bit embarrassing for their skill set, for their talent level. I don't think it will happen, like you said, to that caliber that it happened in week 1 versus JMU, but a lot of that has to do, of course, with the offensive line as well. We had heard from Coach Moore that some guys did get their eyes opened up a little bit, and again, now you can't go back to that inexperience. You have 1 game under your belt. I look for West Virginia to make a turnaround in the run game for that point of Kennedy McCoy and Martell Pettaway. They want more, and these are 2 guys who deserve to be able to have more as well.
That running back room is going to be filled with a hungry bunch of guys.
Oh, yeah.
Hungry bunch of guys. Now, we're going to wrap it up to the last question. Please send in your questions. Get involved. Let's have fun. I mean, get your name up on the screen. I mean,
yeah, let's have fun. Exactly.
Let's have fun. Follow us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook, Follow us on Twitter. Use the hashtag AskMGDExtra. We'll get your questions on air. Now, speaking of hungry, I'm going to throw in my own little question.
Food question?
Food question.
Come on.
Food question.
My favorite.
What is your favorite tailgate food? We'll start with you, Angelica. What's your favorite?
Well, this is kind of hard for the simple fact that it's really been a while since I've been at a tailgate.
When you're a sports reporter, you don't go
really
to too many games as a fan. Yeah.
With that being
Usually a little
said,
busy.
at the home games, if anybody feels that they see Nick and I out and they want to bring us a little tailgate food, I'm here for it.
We'll tell you what we
I'm
like
ready.
here. We're about to tell you.
Back in the day when I did get to enjoy some tailgates, for me, I'm a big like dip person. Not just like buffalo chicken dip, but there was this one dip that my friend's mom used to make. I don't even know what it was, but it was like ground beef, a little like peppers or something. It was like queso. Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm big on the dips, of course. I like, like a pulled pork sandwich, hamburger, the traditional stuff. But I'm a big dip person for tailgates.
So
that's what I'm going to go with.
I was going to say buffalo chicken dip because that probably is my favorite tailgate type of thing. But if you're going with dips, I mean, I don't know, that's tough now because now I'm on the spot here. I think I don't know. I'm just like a burgers and dogs kind of guy. Like I know that's you maybe don't put that with a tailgate. You think of it more like as 4th of July type of picnic food. But
you put it with a tailgate.
Yeah, I guess.
You go in the parking lot. What do you smell? The grill.
Yeah, that's right. That's what you smell.
Put 20 patties on a grill. You
You're
know
right.
What I mean?
You're right. I'm a big time burgers and dogs kind of guy. I guess this is where I need to say like because I'm from Pittsburgh. Like give me a permani sandwich. No, that's a good. That's right. That's not for a tailgate, right?
If you're trying to like do other activities or you're trying to be social and enjoy it, that's why I got to go with the dips. You do a little scoop, then you walk away, do whatever, you come back, you do a little scoop. No double dipping, of course.
If I'm at a tailgate, I'm not doing it to be polite. I'm trying to eat as much as I can.
That's what I'm saying, but think about people, at
Yeah, I
tailgates,
get
you're
it.
playing games, you're doing whatever. You
I
can't
get
be
it.
like holding a burger and tossing cornhole.
Right.
At the same
I'm
time.
with Angelica. No commitment with a dip.
So
No
wait, okay,
commitment
wait.
with a dip.
She brings up a good point though. Best tailgate game, not food, game.
Cornhole.
Cornhole?
Cornhole.
I love Can Jam. I'm a
was just
huge
gonna say
Can
that.
Jam fan. Big Can Jam guy. I like Spike Ball, but Spike Ball's too aggressive to
Yeah,
play on the
it's
pavement.
intense.
Yeah, if you're not on the grass or sand,
That one's
tough.
also new on the scene.
It is new,
It's still
yeah.
kind of picking up the hype.
Only
the
our
buzz, the
trendy
buzz.
viewers will know what Can Jam
Yeah,
is.
the trendy.
Trendy. Well, great questions this week. Happy to have you along for this
Thanks,
ride here
everybody.
on MGD Extra. Like Sam said, make sure to get your questions in every week, whether they're about football, whether about anything else that you want them to be about,
Tailgate
like the
food.
tailgate food. Absolutely. Let us know. Hashtag MGD Extra. Hashtag Ask MGD Extra. Sorry, that can come either on Twitter or on Facebook as well, or any other social platform. Make sure to send us your questions so that way we have something to talk about right here next week.
All right, so now we're going to do our weekly check-in with Dale Wolfley over at the Pushcar Complex for his Howl of the Week. Wolfman, take it away, man.
Hey, it's my favorite time, man. MGD Extra, because it's time for you know what? The Wolves. Howl, baby. Yeah, let's go. Hey, this week we're going to show Colton McKivitz. Now, I showed you this before, but I don't care. I like it. Right here. You're going to watch Colton against Reese Donahue. Hey, both two big bull in the rings, right? Bam, 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 going at it. Here we go. Roll it. Check it out. Oh, look at that. They're going to fight. Who's going to be nasty? Who's going to be nasty? Yeah, man, nasty. Oh, keep going. Yeah, keep it going. Who's going to finish? Let's go, keep going. Oh, there you go, right there. Hey, that's a great job by both of those guys. Hey, trust me, Reese Donahue has his day many times. Okay, this one was Colton McKivitz's right here. So continuing on, right here. What does make Colton McKivitz so special? Why is he a big time NFL prospect? Well, he's 6'7", 325 pounds. That's number one. He comes off the ball. Look at his bend here. He's got some bend to him right here. That's a big man right there. He's going to come off. He's going to fight this dude from Tennessee right here. And watch him. He's going to continue on. This guy here is going to give him a shot to the face. Well, you're going to see Colton finish off. That's what he needs, and that's what he does. Nastiness. Here we go. Roll it right here. Watch Colton right here. Check it out. He keeps driving. Look at that to his face. Okay. All right. That's some nasty stuff here. It wasn't even called right here. But look, he keeps finishing it. And watch. Let's watch my man finish right here. Oh, yeah. Like, hey, I don't like that, man. Get back, Jack, right? You know I'm here. So as we finish up the howl on Colton McKivitz, I want you to take a look at big man here. Again, I said he's 6'7", 320. He's going to take this guy here. He's got long arms. Why does that make him a great pro prospect? He's got long arms, especially at tackle here, right tackle. Now he's moving to left tackle. Let's go. Roll it right here. Check it out. Colton McKivitz going to be coming off the ball. Look at his drop step. It's all good. Good base right there. You're not getting around him right here. Check it out. Look at his arm extension right here. Oh, yeah. Big Colton McKivitz. I think he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to be a great NFL player. And that, my friends, is your MGD Extra, the Wolves. Ow! Boom!
Wrapping up episode 2 of MGD Extra, WVU versus Missouri this weekend, West Virginia's first road trip of the 2019 season. Before we wrap this up and we tell you where to find us this weekend for all of your pregame coverage, I know I've never been to Missouri. Have you ever been to Missouri? I think we talked about this earlier. I'm excited.
Kansas City is in
Oh,
Missouri.
no, I mean like Missouri.
Oh, like Missouri, Columbia, Missouri.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I have been inside the state of Missouri, but I've never been to Mizzou. No.
You're not even giving me any
I was
credit there.
trying to get you because I thought that, all right, fine. Because there's Kansas City, Kansas City, Missouri. Big 12 tournament is in Kansas
We've
City,
been
Missouri.
in Kansas City
Right.
a number of times. Have you
Kansas City's
ever
a lot of
been
fun.
to the University
No, I've never
of
been.
Missouri?
Heard they have a good journalism school, though. Apparently,
Yeah.
I'm not good enough to go there. So, whatever. That's
I've
fine.
only got to see Mizzou in action one time. That was the 2016 season, my first season here, where West Virginia hosted Mizzou here at home. So, a first trip to the University of Missouri for both of us, and I think that it should be a lot of fun. So, Nick and I will be live on location coming up for a brand new episode of Mountaineer Game Day. It begins at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and then, of course, the Neil Brown Show will air at 9 a.m., and we've got all your pregame coverage, but it doesn't stop there on TV because we've got plenty more on social media, too.
Exactly. In the meantime, while you're waiting for game day, you can check us out on a number of platforms. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. While you're at it, download the WV Illustrated app. That's where you'll have access to daily web stories and more content, including photo galleries and our daily West Virginia Illustrated reports, which, by the way, you can find every night on your local Nexstar station in West Virginia. So, you ready to go to Mizzou? First road trip of the year. You
First road
excited?
trip.
Let's do it.
Let's go. We appreciate you being here with us for MVD Extra, for all of our guests here on the program, and of course, Nick Farrell. I'm Angelica Treneau. Don't forget, get your questions in, #AskMVDExtra, and we'll see you right here, same time, same place next week.
Should I throw it? Not at you. Right there. Boom!